Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very important live stream this evening. We're going to hear from a very honest man, James Comey. You're going to hear him talk about the all his work at the Bureau and how he, in the most diligent way, investigated Madam Secretary and found that, gosh, golly gee, she really didn't mean to use private servers with top secret intelligence on them. And you're going to hear how differently they treat Donald Trump from Hillary Clinton. We're going to also talk about how difficult it is for media to admit that Trump was spied on. It is so difficult for them to come to that conclusion. So really quickly, we have an NPR article. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel. That's below in the pinned comment. To my super chat. Thank you so very much. You give me every incentive to rock these live streams. I can't do this without you. To my super chat, thank you. Eric, Luke, two amazing moderators, two of the best moderators in all of YouTube. Thank you. JG, everyone here. Thank you so very much for tuning in. David, Kristen, Quinn, everybody here. Thank you so much. Let's get started. Again, to my super chat, thank you so very much. So here's the indictment of Michael Sussmann. You can look down here and actually, it's on page, let's see, right here. Okay. Sussmann, Tech Executive 1 and Law Firm 1 had coordinated and were continuing to coordinate with representatives and agents of the Clinton campaign with regard to data and written materials that Sussmann gave to the FBI and media. It's right there. It's not rocket science, it's right there. Everyone was coordinating to set up and frame Trump. That was the point. That was what was going on. Born to raise hogs. Thank you so very much. As always, Born to raise hogs. Thank you so very, very much. Thank you. 7712. Thank you. Born to raise hogs. Thank you so very, very much. Greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated. Starting this off, I can't tell you how much your support is appreciated. Thank you so much. I mean, every live stream, just thank you so very much. It says right here in the indictment, Tech Executive 1 and Law Firm 1 had coordinated and were continuing to coordinate with representatives and agents of the Clinton campaign with regard to the data and written materials that Sussmann gave to the FBI and media. It's right there. They created and fabricated a myth. Trump never worked with Russia. He never communicated through servers, either from Trump Tower or the White House. And they gave false information to intelligence services, Central Intelligence, the Bureau, to investigate Trump. They set him up and framed him. Really quickly, before we get to Comey's words, we're going to listen to Comey on C-SPAN, and it's going to be very interesting. Because you're going to see the difference in the baseless claims that they level at Trump and the passion and the energy and the exuberance they exhibit when it pertains to investigating baseless claims. They have a desire to always investigate baseless claims when it comes to Trump. And when the obvious is revealed, they simply can't come to terms with the obvious. So it's right there in the indictment. You can see that they gathered evidence, or they gathered, not evidence, internet data on information about Trump, people associated with Trump, from Trump Tower, and also from the Oval Office. Okay? Now, the fact that they say, well, it happened prior to President Trump becoming president, that's irrelevant because the information they obtained was all about Trump. So who cares if they obtained this information prior to him becoming president? Now, really quickly, this NPR article says, it's interesting. This NPR article right here has two people, going back and forth. The political right is making hay. The political right is making hay of a recent filing in Special Counsel John Durham's investigation. We break down the truth behind their outlandish claims. The it's obvious that Sussmann was paid for a reason. They purchased the Steele dossier for a reason. They created the Alpha Bank myth for a reason. The reason was to set up and frame Trump, to get media and to get intelligence agents to investigate Trump over bogus, nonsensical, completely irrational claims that he worked with the Kremlin, or he was installed by the Kremlin. Okay, only because the truth that they cheated Bernie Sanders was disclosed within the DNC emails. So they're always trying to cover their tracks. They're always trying to. They're always trying to muddy the waters. Because the truth about them, whether it's the DNC email showing Bernie Sanders was cheated, or, Sussmann getting indicted, and us finding out that Clinton paid for everything from the Steele dossier to Michael Sussmann obtaining derogatory information about Trump, which turned out to be false information. The truth, that truth it's impossible. So this is the problem we have. When NPR should be apolitical. We break down the truth behind their outlandish claims. Okay. So conservative media ran with that. Ran with what? Durham says the Internet Tech Executive won mined Internet data from Trump Tower, the executive office of the president, and other locations to find derogatory material about Trump. That should be enough for NPR to say, "Oh wow, that's pretty bad." They're engaging in surveillance of Trump, because if Durham found that tech executive one mined internet data from the Clinton residence and from the former Bill Clinton executive office of the president and other locations to get derogatory material about the Clintons, you better believe they wouldn't allow any of that. But NPR goes, Trump jumped on that, and he put out a statement claiming that Durham said Hillary Clinton's campaign paid operatives to spy on Trump's campaign and his presidency. That's exactly what the filing states. It doesn't state it verbatim, but it doesn't need to state it verbatim. They're demanding that Durham says that Durham express himself in that manner. So you get, so conservative media ran with that. Fox News even said Clinton had, quote, infiltrated Trump Tower in the White House. But is that what Durham actually said? No, Durham didn't say that verbatim. But in the indictment, that's what we find out. So here we have the typical liberal, morally superior liberal response, liberal Democratic Party response, which ignores reality and paints everything in this picture where there's really no political motive to Clinton actually paying people to find dirt on Trump. So when the DNC emails were released, it had to be because Russia was against or opposed Clinton. That was the reason. Russia knew that Bernie was being cheated, so that was the motive behind the DNC emails. But when Clinton pays to get information on Trump, there's zero political motive. Apparently, there's zero political motive. JG, hello, enjoy dinner, JG. What are you making for dinner, JG? And so Here you have Durham never said in his filing that Clinton paid operatives to spy on Trump. No, Durham said that she paid an attorney to find information on Trump and then give that information to intelligence services and to the media. Do you see how it's impossible for NPR to just look at things for what they are? There can't ever be a political motive when it comes to anything Democrats do. But with Trump, there's always a political motive. There's always some kind of, nefarious reason why he does everything. Okay, there's just always some kind of political motive with Trump. There's never any political motive. So he never used the word infiltrate. So what? He didn't have to use the word infiltrate. The entire indictment and the filing and the recent filing basically states that an attorney was paid to work alongside a tech executive and the technology company and other tech employees in various other organizations to find internet data and information on Trump and people that Trump knew. So it doesn't matter if all that information or some of it was obtained prior to Trump becoming president, because guess what? The whole point is it was information that Clinton paid to obtain. And it was information that the tech executive and other tech people had no right to acquire. That's the issue. The issue is that they had no right to acquire any of this information. And they did so because there was a political motive. The political motive was just get Trump. Get as much information as possible on Trump. And give that information to anyone who could harm him politically, whether it was intelligence operatives or whether it was media. And there was a symbiotic relationship between intelligence operatives and media. This is not rocket science. So the propaganda spin here is no, Durham never said that in his filing. He didn't have to use the word infiltrate. And it's also important to say that Tech Executive 1 hasn't been charged with a crime. And Durham doesn't accuse Tech Executive 1 of a crime. Well, apparently it is not a crime to obtain internet data. Well, it could be. Look. The tech executive could possibly be charged with a crime eventually. But like I was trying to say the past couple of segments, all of these people engaged in surveillance through the use of legal activity. These were political endeavors, or politically inspired endeavors. Tech Executive 1 spokesman says he never worked for a political party and that he had legal access to all the internet data in question. He worked alongside an attorney that was paid by Clinton. End of story. If he worked alongside an attorney paid by Rudy Giuliani, do you think that NPR would be defending Tech Executive 1? I don't think so. So you have a situation where it's kind of amusing. It's very amusing that they just can't possibly admit that Trump was right yet again. So he's been right all along. He never worked with Russia. They were spying on his campaign. They were trying to set him up and frame him. And you had partisan actors within government. So here we can go back to Sussmann, Tech Executive 1 and Law Firm 1 had coordinated and were continuing to coordinate with representatives and agents of the Clinton campaign with regard to the data and written materials that Sussmann gave to the FBI and media. That's on page 3. You can look at the bottom here. On or about September 19, 2016, within the District of Columbia, Michael A. Sussmann, the defendant, did willfully and knowingly make a materially false, fictitious, and fraudulent statement or representation in a matter before the jurisdiction of the executive branch of the government of the United States, to wit, on or about September 19, 2016, the defendant stated to the general counsel of the FBI he was not acting on behalf of any client in conveying particular allegations concerning a presidential candidate, when in truth and in fact, and as the defendant well knew, he was acting on behalf of specific clients, namely Tech Executive One and the Clinton campaign. Tech Executive One was his client, and the Clinton campaign was his client. So there you go. I mean, NPR doesn't even address this. The only reason I'm reading NPR is because Washington Post, there's a paywall. So the same thing with the Washington Post. And this is for the data related to the executive office of the president. That was from during the Obama administration. So before Trump took office, so what? So what? It pertained to Trump. Is NPR trying to say that Sussmann engaged in surveillance of President Obama? I don't think so. The data was collected because it pertained to President Trump. Sussmann's attorneys put their own court papers this week, and they said that Sussmann's meeting with Central Intelligence happened after Trump took office, so after the Clinton campaign had effectively ceased to exist. That is absurd. The Clinton campaign, she's running for president again in 2024. I will be vindicated. Do you understand? Do you understand I will be vindicated once and for all? Clinton is going to run again. It's going to be beautiful. It will be absolutely beautiful. So they don't really, Durham was a point, they sidestep, like there's no rebuttal here. Here's how media works. They start off with a seemingly benign headline or a title. It's explained. Why did conservative media fly off the handle? Then they say, we break down the truth behind their outlandish claims. And then they lie. Now, are they always lying? No. Are they usually lying? Yes. They're usually, whenever it comes to defending Clinton or mashed potato brains Biden, they're usually lying through their teeth. Is the epicenter of corruption in American politics the Democratic Party? Yes. Was it the Republican Party under Bush 20 years ago? Yes. The pendulum has swung from Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld to Biden, Clinton, and media, all of media. Okay, you don't have the days of Walter Cronkite or Ted Koppel or David Brinkley or Sam Donaldson or Peter Jennings. Those days are over. Now you have hyper-partisan Democratic Party loyalists. And again, I'm not coming from, of course I have a partisan viewpoint, but I'm not an ideologue. Some could say that I am, but I'm telling everyone, I'm saying, you know what? Republicans were the most corrupt political party 20 years ago, by far. Now it's the Democratic Party. The pendulum has swung. The pendulum years from now might swing back to the Republican Party. Trump Republicans, I think, will be a breath of fresh air because they're more populist. Populist movements, not all, because there was a populist movement on the left, but it was completely crushed. And then it morphed into something like, where the leader of this populist movement was AOC, which should tell you everything you need to know about populism on the left. a person who her signature achievement was the Green New Deal resolution. It was a resolution that Democrats refused to even vote on. So it was just a public relations stunt to garner as much emotional, as much emotional political capital, or as much as emotion as possible. The world's going to end. We'll then vote on it. Then Biden makes Build Back Better all about climate change and infrastructure, and it doesn't even get passed. So I'm going to go ahead, and when I talked about James Comey, we're going to listen to James Comey right now. And the reason we're going to listen to James Comey is because it'll give everybody a greater understanding of, well, by the way, really quickly, did I not tell you that the stock market is going to crash? We're seeing this crash in slow motion, but we're seeing it right now. And inflation is through the roof. We still have, around $1 trillion in margin debt. Consumer sentiment is at a decade low. Oil prices are at a decade high. Gasoline is going to be, they're talking about $7 a gallon, some articles eventually. So you have oil that will probably, because of Russia-Ukraine, go past 147, 150, maybe approach even $200. But let's just listen to this. So we're seeing, I think Bitcoin's going to get to 10,000. I think the Dow's going to drop to close to 20,000. The S&P, Jeremy Grantham says, will, be cut by half to 22,000. 22, yeah. So 2,200, sorry. So let's look really quickly. Let's look at Comey's statement on Clinton when he had to close up the Clinton email probe and basically tell the world that Madam Secretary didn't intend to use servers with top secret intelligence. Now, listen to the reason I want everyone to watch this is because just look at the difference in how Comey handles Clinton and Comey handled Trump. Okay, let me see if you can tell me the difference, because the difference is like night and day. So check this out.
Good morning. I'm here to give you an update on the FBI's investigation of Secretary Clinton's use of a personal email system during her time as Secretary of State. After a tremendous amount of work over the last year, the FBI is completing its investigation and referring the matter to the Department of Justice for a prosecutive decision. What I want to do today is three things. I want to tell you what we did, I want to tell you what we found, and I want to tell you what we're recommending to the Department of Justice. This is going to be an unusual statement in at least a couple of ways. First, I'm going to include more detail about our process than I ordinarily would, because I think the American people deserve those details in a case of intense public interest.
So, number one, he wasn't supposed to, the FBI doesn't, it's the Justice Department that decides to indict. They give the information to the Justice Department. And when the Inspector General said, well, we didn't see prosecutorial bias, the entire investigation was predicated upon, well, Clinton didn't mean to use servers. That's a lot different than, oh, Sussmann is giving us information obtained by a tech company, his client, while he's being paid by the Clinton campaign, okay, let's investigate Trump based on this information that was compiled by his direct political rivals. Or let's look at a Steele dossier purchased by Clinton and then utilize that as the basis for investigating Trump and everyone around him. Or, oh, let's start a special counsel because James Comey didn't like a meeting or interaction he had with Trump. And then leaked information on, his memos that were probably fabricated, right before the special counsel, which all, by the way, contains some classified data. He leaks information to a friend of his who then gives it to media. So I mean, it's just pretty unbelievable how, I mean, you can listen to James Comey and you can see that the fix was in when it came to Trump. They didn't want Trump in office and they were going to spread as many lies as possible. Now, the way they look at Trump is he's capable of anything, but most of the accusations against him were false. Most of the accusations against the Clintons or Biden are either absolutely true, categorically true, or if anyone utilized the logic leveled against Trump, they'd want to investigate or at least be very suspicious. But that's not the way media handles things. You can only make claims. You can only make baseless claims about Trump, and if you don't have absolute categorical proof against Biden or Clinton, then you can't say anything. That's considered blasphemy. So let's continue.
And second, I have not coordinated this statement or reviewed it in any way with the Department of Justice or any other part of the government. They do not know what I'm about to say. But I want to start by thanking the FBI employees who did remarkable work in this case. Once you have a better sense of how much we have done, you will understand why I am so grateful and so proud of their work. So first, what we have done. This investigation began as a referral from the Intelligence Community Inspector General in connection with Secretary Clinton's use of a personal email server during her time as Secretary of State. The referral focused on whether classified information was transmitted on that personal system. Our investigation looked at whether there is evidence that classified information was improperly stored or transmitted on that personal system in violation of a federal statute that makes it a felony to mishandle classified information, either intentionally or in a grossly negligent way, or a second statute making it a misdemeanor to knowingly remove classified information from appropriate systems or storage facilities. And consistent with our counterintelligence responsibilities, we have also investigated to determine if...
So he never actually explains ever how top secret or special access program intelligence or classified data was removed from government networks. He never, ever, nobody did. McCabe, Strzok, Clapper, Brennan, nobody ever did. So he's lying about that. He's not going to really touch upon any of this. He's going to say, well, she did a lot of bad things. Kilgore Trout! Unbelievable. I know. Unbelievable. I mean, unbelievable. Born and raised Hawks, thank you. Kilgore Trout, thank you. Unbelievable. So he doesn't ever really touch upon any of this. What he never explains, like, could you imagine if Trump had servers for 4 years outside of the United States government? And then you have like, oh, I don't want to hear about the Clinton email ever again because Trump, shoved National Archive papers down the toilet. There's no evidence of that at all. There's no evidence of that at all. And so that was in a book. And then they're saying, well, there could be some classified data. She had information born classified, not just retroactively classified. She had top secret information on servers that even Comey says could have easily been hacked by the entire planet. Angel Reyes, hello. So you have servers that, I mean, this is technology in 2008, 2009, 2010. It was easily obtained by foreign intelligence services. Even Hayden stated that, one of President Obama's intelligence chiefs. But look at the difference. They investigate Clinton and they say, well, you know, she didn't mean to do it. And then they investigate Trump on baseless allegations with the absurd belief that, well, you know what, Russia wanted him. Russia wanted Trump. How do we know this? Because the DNC emails showed that Bernie Sanders was cheated, and obviously Russia would want people to know that. It's like, no, you hurt your own political side by being so corrupt. And those emails weren't written by any Russian operative. They were written by Democrats. But let's continue.
If there is evidence of computer intrusion by nation states or by hostile actors of any kind. Now, I have so far used the singular term email server in describing the referral that began our investigation. It turns out to have been more complicated than that. Secretary Clinton used several different servers and administrators of those servers during her 4 years at the State Department.
Could you imagine if Trump used several servers in 4 years as president? Could you imagine? Could you imagine?
And she also used numerous mobile devices to send and to read email on that personal domain. As new servers and equipment were employed, older servers were taken out of service, stored, and decommissioned in various ways. Piecing all of that back together to gain as full an understanding as possible of the ways in which personal email was used for government work has been a painstaking undertaking, requiring thousands of hours.
It wasn't just a matter of personal email being used for government work. There was no government email. There was only one email that she used. Okay? And I wrote about this. It's on Amazon. I wrote about this. Okay? But her emails and but her top secret emails. And debunking the Trump-Russia myth. You can look that up on Amazon. It's not rocket science. Like, he didn't have a private email or a public or a government email. It was all just one email. And there's no chance for any Freedom of Information Act requests because, well, she deleted 30,000 plus emails that she deemed, I mean, we have no clue if some were classified. We had no clue. Nobody oversaw the process of deleting emails. Comey let her and other Democrats do anything they wanted. And there was zero suspicion. That's the issue. There was no suspicion at all. With Trump, they investigated any innuendo, any attempt at just, accusing him of everything under the sun. With Larry, hello, with Madam Secretary, it was just basically, oh, look at all of these things we would never let Trump get away with, but you know what? We're not gonna recommend any indictments, and it's not even for Comey to recommend. It's the Department of Justice. What he said was Loretta Lynch told him to call it a manner, the Attorney General. So somebody's lying under oath, either the Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, or James Comey, because both under oath said, oh, yeah, what the other one said isn't true. But let's continue.
Hours of effort. For example, when one of Secretary Clinton's servers was decommissioned in 2013, the email software was removed. That didn't remove the email content, but it was like removing the frame from a huge unfinished jigsaw puzzle and then dumping all the pieces on the floor. The effect was that millions of email fragments ended up in the server's unused or slack space. We searched through all of it to understand what was there and what parts of the puzzle we could put back together.
He's lying. He couldn't have searched through all of it because she deleted 33,000 plus emails. So, and then she deleted them, and this was after a subpoena, but then the rebuttal was, oh, well, the order to delete them was prior to the subpoena. But it's like, so what? You could have just put it, said, okay, you know what? Stop the order to delete them. We need those emails because Congress wants them. I mean, it's mind-boggling, but at the same time, it's like, okay, Democrats have all of media, regurgitating their nonsense. If you actually take a second to look, like I said, the Bush administration, that was the epicenter of corruption. Now you have this unholy alliance of media and Democrats. Now that's the center of corruption. But let's continue. So he couldn't have investigated everything because she deleted 3,000+ emails. So he's lying about that.
Together again. FBI investigators also read all of the approximately 30,000 emails that Secretary Clinton provided to the State Department in 2014.
But those same FBI investigators read none of the deleted emails. Want to know why? Bueller. Because they were deleted. Bueller. Ferris. Bueller. Because they were deleted. So nobody at the Bureau read any of those emails.
Where an email was assessed as possibly containing classified information, the FBI referred that email to any government agency that might be an owner of that information, so that agency could make a determination as to whether the email contained classified information at the time it was sent or received, or whether there was reason to classify it now, even if the content had not been classified when it was first sent or received. And that's the process sometimes referred to as up-classifying. From the group of 30,000 emails returned to the State Department in 2014, 110 emails in 52 email chains have been determined by the owning agency to contain classified information.
So 110 classified emails, with some being top secret. I mean, do you think Trump could get away with this on private servers? And they've been trying desperately to make a morally equivalent story. Oh, he shoved papers down the toilet, and none of it's true. But I mean, this is almost as bad, or maybe just as bad, as Hunter Biden's laptop with incriminating data. I mean, they're hiding in plain sight. It's just that most people aren't really interested. And I don't blame most people. I don't blame most people on the left. And I don't blame most people on the right. Or it does. I mean, most Americans are just, they want to have, they want to put food on the table. And they don't really understand that Clinton had 100 plus classified emails on servers running outside of the United States government. They don't understand it, and they don't get it, and that's fine. That's how media gets away with lying to everybody. That's why very few people trust media. Very few people trust media. And it's because of the endless lies by omission. Most of the time, media lies by omission. They do not, like this NPR article right here, it's an entire lie by omission. Oh, Durham didn't use the word infiltrate, so therefore Trump was wrong. It's like, no, he doesn't have to use the word infiltrate. He explains within the indictment that a whole bunch of people were coordinating against Trump to gather information. You can call that surveillance, or you can call that gathering information to make sure that government agencies investigate Trump based on baseless claims and lies. So, well, let's continue.
At the time they were sent or received. 8 of those chains have been determined by the 30,000 emails returned to the State Department in 2014. 110 emails in 52 email chains have been determined by the owning agency to contain classified information at the time they were sent or received. 8 of those chains contained information that was top secret at the time they were sent. 36 of those chains contained secret information.
You have 8 email chains containing top secret information. And the Washington Post doesn't care. And Maggie Haberman writes a book about Trump with flushing National Archives down the toilet. But Comey is right here saying you had 8 email chains with top secret intelligence. And everybody's fine with that. And we're supposed to believe that the Kremlin is petrified of Clinton and Biden. I mean, you have Hunter Biden, who's a walking national security risk, and mashed potato brains Joe getting money from his son, apparently, allegedly, 10% of business deals, where these people, the Clintons and the Bidens, make millions through business deals in China, in Russia, in other countries throughout the world. You have Bill Clinton meeting with Putin at his home, literally meeting with Putin. Here, you have it here. We could just go ahead. Bill Clinton, Putin home. I mean, it's right here. Bill Clinton sought states' permission to meet with Russian nuclear official during Obama uranium decision. And it's like, right. Bill Clinton instead got together with Vladimir Putin at the Russian leader's private homestead. I mean, it's right there. I mean, you can't make this up. If Trump had dinner with Putin at his home while he was trying to get State Department's permission to meet with a Russian nuclear official, are you kidding me? While Uranium One donations were being funneled into their foundation, do you imagine if Trump presided over these things? Do you imagine if Trump had servers with 7 or 8 email chains with top secret intelligence? Are you kidding? They get away with everything. But that's likely going to end soon, eventually. By the way, did I tell you Hillary Clinton's running again for president? And I can't wait to be vindicated. Everything that I've been saying, well, I mean, it'll be, I'll be the only person on the planet who told you from day one. Now I'll be 4 years too late, but whatever. It is what it is. I'm not Nostradamus. I'm just, I'm just me. But here, I can't be perfect.
At the time, and 8 contained confidential information at the time. That's the lowest level of classification. Separate from those, about 2,000 additional emails were up-classified to make them confidential. Those emails had not been classified at the time that they were sent or received. The FBI also discovered several thousand work-related emails that were not among the group of 30,000 emails returned by Secretary Clinton to state in 2014. We found those emails in a variety of ways. Some had been deleted over the years, and we found traces of them on servers or devices that have been connected.
But you didn't find the 30,000 deleted, the 33,000 deleted emails, did you? No, he did not. So there you go. By the way, did I tell you Hillary's running again? Well, I will be right about that. And I can't wait. I swear to God, I can't wait. Because you know what? You spent 5 years convincing tens of millions of people that Russia wanted Trump. Oh no, now you're going to then enjoy the rematch. No. You can't put this, you can't obsess over this nonsense for years and years and not want a rematch. So you're going to have a rematch. We're going to have a rematch.
To the private email domain. Others we found by reviewing the archived government accounts of people who'd been government employees at the same time as Secretary Clinton, including high-ranking officials at other agencies, folks with whom a Secretary of State might normally correspond. This helped us recover work-related emails that were not among the 30,000 that were produced to state. Still others we recovered from that painstaking review of the millions of email fragments dumped into the slack space of the server that was decommissioned in 2013. With respect to the thousands of emails we found that were not among those produced to the State Department, agencies have concluded that 3 of those were classified at the time they were sent or received, 1 at the secret level and 2 at the confidential level. There were no additional.
So here's what Comey's doing. He knows that people don't see, he knows that all of media and most Americans, don't really see the bird's eye view, the big picture, everything in aggregate. He knows that. So he's going to give you all of this minutia, or he'll give you some important information like the top secret intel. But he'll say, oh, we worked so hard to obtain all of this information. Well, number one, he didn't obtain all the information. He only obtained some of it. Number two, he just disregards the fact that top secret intel was on private servers and never tells anybody how that intel was removed from government locations. How did you remove top secret and special access programs? Clinton was allowed to do so by President Obama, almost certainly. This is not really a scandal about the Clintons. The Clinton email story is a story about President Obama allowing this to take place, whether giving tacit approval or overt approval. Because he did email his Secretary of State. He knew she had private servers. And I wrote about that in the Daily Caller, because Cheryl Mills knew. So this is really a story about President Obama. And guess who worked for President Obama? James Comey. So, it's interesting. Anything that happens in the ever-expanding universe, Trump is, it's Trump's fault. But when President Obama's FBI director refuses to indict a Democratic candidate, there's zero conflict of interest there.
Top secret emails found, and finally, none of those we found have since been upclassified. I should add here that we found no evidence that any of the additional work-related emails were intentionally deleted in an effort to conceal them in some way.
They absolutely were intentionally deleted. There was 33,000 intentionally deleted. Everything was intentional. Nothing here was unintentional. With Trump, he's not even given the benefit of the doubt when it's an absurd, baseless Steele dossier. With Clinton, they had top secret intelligence on servers for 4 years and 33,000 deleted emails, but of course nothing is intentional.
Our assessment is that, like many email users, Secretary Clinton periodically deleted emails, or emails were purged from her system when devices were changed.
Like many email users who are secretaries of state, like many email users who happen to be Secretary of State. Does that make any sense? Does that make any sense? Michael Sussmann is being indicted because he was paid by the Clinton campaign and DNC to share information with the Bureau to investigate Trump, to obtain info, derogatory info. Of course, he's probably telling the truth that Baker at the FBI knew exactly what Sussmann was up to. Nonetheless, this is like the two different. Kilgore Trout, thank you. I didn't see that. Kilgore Trout, thank you. I didn't see that. I don't see that benefit of the doubt when it comes to poor Trump. But here,
Because she was not using a government account or even a commercial account like Gmail, there was no archiving at all of her emails. So it's not surprising that we discovered emails that were not on Secretary Clinton's system.
if there was no archiving at all, therefore there's no ability for a Freedom of Information Act request to be met. And then there's the issue of the 30,000 deleted emails. And then the main issue, this is where President Obama really, it's not really, look, Comey never explains how top secret intelligence was removed from secure government locations within, secure cyber locations onto her servers. I mean, that's the issue here. Nobody knows how she was able to get all of that information on servers outside of the U.S. government.
In 2014, when she produced those 30,000 some emails to state. It could also be that some of the additional work-related emails that we've recovered were among those deleted as personal by her lawyers when they reviewed and sorted her emails for production in late 2014. The lawyers doing the sorting for Secretary Clinton in 2014 did not individually read the content of all of her emails as we did for those available to us. Instead, they relied on header information, and they used search terms to try to find all work-related emails among the reportedly more than 60,000 that were remaining on her.
So the man, Comey admits they could have deleted classified data. I mean, it's unbelievable. Are you serious? They're giving a free pass. I mean, everything is just a free pass. With Trump, any allegation sticks, and there's he's capable of anything, and it's of course some kind of nefarious link to Trump and a toilet and flushing things down a toilet or a Moscow hotel room. It's like, this is all media. Comey is a loyalist of the Democratic Party. He's a Democratic Party loyalist. He's not a Boy Scout. And anyone who thinks that he's like apolitical is a complete imbecile. He had a specific objective and a specific agenda.
Her system at the end of 2014. It's highly likely that their search missed some work-related emails and that we later found them, for example, in the mailboxes of other officials or in the Slack space of a server. It's also likely that there are other work-related emails that they did not produce to state and that we did not find elsewhere and that are now gone because they deleted all emails they did not produce to state, and the lawyers then cleaned their devices in such a way as to preclude complete forensic recovery. We have conducted interviews and done technical examination to attempt to understand exactly how that sorting was done by her attorneys. Although we don't have complete visibility because we're not able to fully reconstruct the electronic record of that sorting, we believe our investigation has been sufficient to give us reasonable confidence there was no intentional misconduct in connection with that sorting effort.
There was no intentional misconduct? The entire thing was intentional misconduct. You can't just delete emails as a government employee when you don't even have a government email address and everything is private email and you decide what to give and what not to give and you just use the title of an email as a way to decipher if something is work related. Are you kidding me? I mean, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, this is unbelievable. See, he's making these grandiose leaps of logic, and he's explaining things in a manner he would. This is the same man who wrote memos about a meeting he had with Trump, where he tells the world that Trump asked for his loyalty, and there's not a shred of evidence that ever happened. And there's not a shred of evidence aside from memos he wrote that he then leaked. I mean, it's unbelievable.
And of course, in addition to our technical work, we interviewed many people, from those involved in setting up the personal email system and maintaining the various iterations of Secretary Clinton's server, to staff members with whom she corresponded on email, to those involved in the email production to state, and finally, Secretary Clinton herself. Last, we have done extensive work to try.
Yeah, they didn't talk to the guy who set up her servers, and he was subpoenaed before Congress, and he didn't show up. Of course, when it's a person like a Trump person, oh my God, they make such a big deal about it. And also, hold on, what did he just say?
Various iterations of Secretary Clinton's server, to staff members with whom she corresponded on email, to those involved in the email production to state, and finally, Secretary Clinton herself.
Want to know who at the Bureau interviewed Clinton? Peter Strzok, who said Trump voters are smelly and will stop Trump. So that's who interviewed Clinton, and who was kicked off the Mueller probe.
Last, we have done extensive work to try to understand what indications there might be of compromise by hostile actors in connection with that personal email system. So that's what we've done. Now let me tell you what we found. Although we did not find clear evidence that Secretary Clinton or her colleagues intended to violate laws governing the handling of classified information, there is evidence that they were.
Yes, they intended. Want to know how we know? Because they had servers for 4 years. CMW. CMW, thank you. Earlier super chat me like. It's starting to roll. Stay on them. Thank you so very much. CMW, thank you. Yeah, I'm going to try to do like earlier streams as well. CMW, thank you so much. Greatly, greatly appreciated. CMW, thank you so very much as always. So, I mean, can you believe this, CMW? I mean, can you believe this? CMW, thank you so much. Comey couldn't find any deliberate intentional decision to evade laws. Gee, this is the man who kept us safe from, all of these threats around the globe. Check this out, CMW. Thank you so very much again, as always. Born to Raise Hogs, thank you. Thank you, everybody. But check this out.
In connection with that personal email system. Last, we have done extensive work to try to understand what indications there might be of compromise by hostile actors in connection with that personal email system. So that's what we've done. Now let me tell you what we found. Although we did not find clear evidence that Secretary Clinton or her colleagues intended to violate laws governing the handling of classified information, there is evidence.
Here's the evidence they intentionally violated laws. CMW, Born to Raise Hogs, everybody here, thank you so much. Here's the evidence, Mr. Comey. Honest, wonderful, intelligent Mr. Comey. James Comey, salt of the earth, good man. Here's the evidence that they intentionally, and by the way, I wanted to run again, so trust me, nobody will be happier when Hillary Clinton runs for president again. See, don't get it twisted. Nobody watching this should get it twisted. I know very well Comey went to bat for Madam Secretary, and Madam Secretary broke numerous laws. And yet, the Goodman prophecy must be fulfilled. We have to have Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump. There's been too much propaganda, there's been too much madness for that not to happen. And I'll be vindicated. Call me selfish. Sorry. Okay? Mashed potato brains wasn't supposed to happen. When you watch mashed potato brains and Kamala Harris, and it'll be, you know what? Suddenly they'll be like, we think Hillary Clinton is going to be the best choice. Don't get it twisted. Trump will win, but it could be very close. CMW, thank you so very much, as always. I can't thank you enough. Both of you, Born to Raise Hogs, CMW, everyone here. CMW, so kind of you. Always so kind of you. I hope all is well.
That they were extremely careless in their handling of very sensitive, highly classified information. For example, 7 email chains concern matters that were classified at the top secret special access program at the time they were sent and received.
You have SAP Intel, Special Access Program Intelligence. How did it get on servers outside of the United States government? Boy Scout Comey never explains that. How hard is that to understand? Why is that so difficult for Peter Strzok and Kleinsmith and McCabe, Andrew McCabe and James Comey and Clapper and Brennan, all of these people? Why can't they explain how SAP Intel found its way, was transferred, migrated, removed from government locations onto Madam Secretary's servers? If you did that, if anyone did that, it would be immediate jail time. You would be waiting in jail. An American citizen would be waiting in jail for the eventual trial, and bail would be set at $10 trillion, which will soon be the price of a loaf of bread or a Kit Kat bar with mashed potato brains inflation. But here, .com, hello.
Those chains involve Secretary Clinton both sending emails about those matters and receiving emails about those same matters. There is evidence to support a conclusion that any reasonable person in Secretary Clinton's position or in the position of those with whom she was corresponding about those matters, should have known that an unclassified system was no place for that conversation. In addition to this highly sensitive information, we also found information that was properly classified as secret by the U.S. intelligence community at the time it was discussed on email. That is, excluding any later up-classified emails. None of these emails should have been on any kind of unclassified system, but their presence is especially concerning because all of these emails were housed on unclassified personal servers, not even supported by full-time security staff like those found at agencies and departments of the United States government, or even with a commercial email service like Gmail.
So if she had top secret and special access program intelligence on email that wasn't even as secure as Gmail, then why on God's green earth didn't you indict or recommend indictments or at least find intent? I mean, Trump was accused of being in a Moscow hotel room, yada, 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 yada. There was no evidence of any of that. There was no evidence of any of that. I mean, it's just unbelievable. They had a special counsel against Trump based on a dossier and high to moderate confidence intelligence assessments that Russia wanted Trump just because the DNC email showed that Bernie Sanders was cheated. But Comey, Inspector Clouseau, couldn't find intent for the ownership of servers. Like, the whole point in owning servers is to hide your communication. How did this man become the director of the FBI? Well, we know now. We know. Amazing Colonel, exactly. We know now. I mean, and this relates directly to the Durham probe. The Durham probe is not only investigating, I mean, there are probably so many contradictory statements under oath. But here, let's just continue.
I think it's also important to say something about the marking of classified information. Only a very small number of the emails here containing classified information bore markings that indicated the presence of classified information. But even if information is not marked classified in an email, participants who know or should know that the subject matter is classified are still obligated to protect it. And while not the focus of our investigation, we also developed evidence that the security culture of the State Department, in general, and with respect to the use of unclassified systems in particular, was generally lacking in the kind of care for classified information that's found elsewhere in the U.S. government.
You think? You think the security culture in the State Department that allowed the Secretary of State for 4 years to have private servers? You think maybe that it's a little bit different in other agencies? You think any of them? And then he was asked in congressional testimony, oh, well, what would you do if an FBI agent? Well, he'd be reprimanded. They'd be reprimanded. It's like, oh my God, no, not just reprimanded. You would immediately send them to jail. But you have to understand, I mean, this is exactly what Durham is up against. They're lying, but they're utilizing their government post to lie. That's the thing. CMW, thank you as always. That's the thing.
With respect to potential computer intrusion by hostile actors, we did not find direct evidence that Secretary Clinton's personal email domain, in its various configurations since 2009, was hacked successfully. But given the nature of the system and of the actors potentially involved, we assess we would be unlikely to see such direct evidence. We do assess that hostile actors gained access to the private commercial email accounts of people with whom Secretary Clinton was in regular contact from her personal account.
The whole planet has all those emails. Almost certainly, including the top secret and special access program intelligence. We're talking about 2009, 2010, 2011 technology. Okay, she was visiting, she visited Russia, China, with all of that information on private servers going through her phone. She didn't really use laptops. It was all through her phone. It's not rocket science. None of it is rocket science. She was using her phone. She was using her 2009, 2010 cell phone. Gee, you think maybe intelligence operatives? Or were they just focused on the DNC to get Bernard Sanders to inform the world that Bernard Sanders was getting cheated?
We also assess that Secretary Clinton's use of a personal email domain was both known by a large number of people and readily apparent. She also used her personal email extensively while outside the United States, including sending and receiving work-related emails in the territory of sophisticated adversaries.
I mean, he says it right there. Trevor, thank you. Thank you, Trevor. Thank you. Thank you so much to my super chat. Thank you. I mean, he says it right there. Trevor, thank you. He says it right there. It's hilarious.
Given that combination of factors, we assess it is possible that hostile actors gained access to Secretary Clinton's personal email account. So that's what we found. Finally, with respect to our recommendation to the Department of Justice. In our system, the prosecutors make the decisions about whether charges are appropriate based on evidence that the FBI helps collect. Although we don't normally make public our recommendations to the prosecutors, we frequently make recommendations and engage in productive conversations with prosecutors about what resolution may be appropriate given.
Trevor, thank you again. CMW, thank you again. Born to Raise Hogs, everybody, thank you again. It was not his decision his call. That's why he was fired by Trump. The way he handled the Clinton email probe was basically just covered up everything. The FBI never just lets people go. They always try to, push for an indictment. But that's the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice decides on the indictment. They give the information to the Department of Justice. And so the intent is obvious, but they hid behind intent. But obviously, that's why you would own private servers. Inherent to owning private servers is the intent to deceive and to hide data. That's why you don't use government email, ever. It has nothing to do with private email. She never had a government address. So, it's like, you have very smart people not wanting to. The issue is suspicion. What Democrats do is they wield emotion. If they wield enough emotion here and there, they can circumvent information or logic or reason. So they can't admit that a Democrat wanted to hide information. So they say, well, there was no intent. Well, then why did you own the servers? I mean, this is directly related to the Durham probe because this is what Durham is up against. This is what Durham is up against. These people are brilliant, or not really that brilliant, but they wield the levers of power. They control, he didn't, okay, Trump did not have anyone loyal to him. Maybe John Ratcliffe and a couple of other people. But other than that, most of the people, from his FBI director to Sessions, barely had William Barr. But everyone was loyal to President Obama, and everyone was loyal to Bush, and everyone's always loyal to the president they work for, except Trump.
Given the evidence. In this case, given the importance of the matter, I think unusual transparency is in order. Although there is evidence of potential violations of the statutes regarding the handling of classified information, our judgment is that no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case.
He contradicts himself. He says there's evidence of violation of the statutes. Then he cloaks his admission. He wraps his admission in a cloak of liberal sensibilities. Well, it's true that a prosecutor could prosecute, but no reasonable one would. No reasonable one wouldn't. If Trump owned those servers, you better believe they've been going after Trump's taxes. They found nothing. They've been going after Trump with Michael Avenatti, and he's now in prison. I mean, it's like it's like they simply can't admit the truth, or they will never go after their own side. They'll always protect their own side, and they'll always, go after Trump because they're obsessed with Trump. And that's what Durham is up against. No reasonable prosecutor. Well, how many reasonable prosecutors? I mean, you had Kevin Kleinsmith who lied to FISA judges. So how many attorneys at the FBI? How a reasonable prosecutor? This Sussmann indictment is about attorneys who were apparently duped by the most absurd allegations and information obtained simply to paint Trump as being installed by the Kremlin. Were those people reasonable? You had the most unreasonable people in government going after Trump. But according to Comey, reasonable prosecutors wouldn't indict, even though, by the way, he admitted that there's enough evidence to indict.
Prosecutors necessarily weigh a number of factors before deciding.
Oh, and by the way, when I was on the left, all of the million sub pundits now who didn't have 1 million subs, they were going after me because I had the courage, it wasn't a lot of courage, but at least there was some courage there, to go, swim upstream and say, you are just defending Clinton because you're a Democrat. And this is when I was supporting Bernie Sanders, who basically became a tool of the Democratic Party, never fought for himself or his voters. But I was saying, you're defending Clinton. These people who are like, H.A. Goodman said that she'd be indicted. It's like, well, you see what's taking place. It was a cover-up. Any other person would have been indicted. The only fault the only mistake I made was believing that Comey would actually indict somebody who was a Democrat. That was the mistake I made. Other than that, he even says it himself. Yeah, a prosecutor could indict. Anyone else would have been indicted. If Trump would have been definitely indicted without a shadow of a doubt. But see, they can't indict Trump because he hasn't committed a crime. Madam Secretary got Comey to say, well, reasonable prosecutors wouldn't indict. Like I said, I want Clinton to run again. She could win. I'll roll the dice with that. But I want a rematch. Because you can't go through all of these twists and turns and all of this drama and all of this propaganda and all of this divisiveness, which isn't about Trump. It's about Democrats and media's reaction to Trump defeating Clinton. You have to have another rematch, and you have to have Clinton versus Trump again, so we can exorcise those demons. We're still living in 2016, and we have to put 2016 to bed, put it to rest, and we have to have a rematch. Hillary Clinton versus Trump. Comey didn't make a complete mockery of the Bureau simply for this to just, stay in perpetuity, for us to stay in 2016 like a time warp. We have to have a rematch. So I'm all for Clinton running again.
Whether to bring charges, there are obvious considerations like the strength of the evidence, especially regarding intent. Responsible decisions also consider the context of a person's actions and how similar situations have been handled in the past. In looking back at our investigations into the mishandling or removal of classified information, we cannot find a case that would support bringing criminal charges on these facts.
How many cases did Comey find where a Secretary of State had private servers with top secret intel? I mean, it's unbelievable. He's attributing carelessness to an obvious intentional situation. So the man is lying through his teeth. He goes, well, we looked back at the history. Well, first of all, that's the Justice Department's job. So we looked back at history, and we couldn't find an example where anybody was prosecuted. Well, did you find any examples of people owning servers for 4 years? Deleting 33,000 emails? Did you find any of those examples? No. So
all the cases prosecuted involved some combination of clearly intentional and willful mishandling of classified information or vast quantities of information exposed in such a way as to support an inference of intentional misconduct or indications of disloyalty to the United States or efforts to obstruct justice. We do not see those things here.
Aside from the disloyalty, which you can't easily prove, you have all of those examples there. She deleted 30,000 plus emails. She found some ways to remove top secret and special access program intelligence. She hired people to do all of these things. Paid money you don't pay money accidentally to get people to run servers. And the servers, according to Comey, were almost certainly hacked. So, I mean, all of those things, this Clinton email saga meets all of those requirements for indictment.
To be clear, this is not to suggest that in similar circumstances, a person who engaged in this activity would face no consequences. To the contrary, those individuals are often subject to security or administrative sanctions, but that's not what we're deciding now. As a result, although the department...
Again, he's lying in the most despicable manner. There are soldiers whose lives were ruined. Okay, government officials, but active duty sailors, soldiers whose lives were ruined. There was one person who was a sailor who took a picture in a sub. I forget exactly. Had to spend a year in jail away from his family. I mean, my God. And that was a picture. That wasn't top secret or special access program intelligence. And you talk about carelessness. It was just simply careless. And let's not get into, all of the people prosecuted for being sources. Never be a source for any journalist, because journalists nowadays are not interested in truth, most of them. They're interested in furthering a political side. So very few journalists are actually out to find truth. They're out to, promote one political side.
The Department of Justice makes final decisions on matters like this. We are expressing to Justice our view that no charges are appropriate in this case. I know there will be intense public debate in the wake of this recommendation, as there was throughout the investigation. What I can assure the American people is that this investigation was done honestly, competently, and independently. No outside influence of any kind was brought to.
Absolutely every outside influence of every single kind was brought. I mean, but the outside influence was he was a loyalist. He worked for President Obama, who was a Democrat. He was not going to indict a Democrat, and he went after Trump in a manner where he was accusing Trump of everything under the sun without any evidence. And with overwhelming evidence showing intent, he then said, no, I wasn't biased. And I mean, this is an important live stream, ladies and gentlemen, because you cannot look at what's going on today without looking at recent history. You can't understand the Durham probe if you don't understand the Clinton email probe. So, I mean, that's the situation we face here. But here, a couple more.
To bear. I know there were many opinions expressed by people who are not part of the investigation, including people in government, but none of that mattered to us. Opinions are irrelevant, and they were all uninformed by insight into our investigation because we did our investigation the right way. Only facts matter, and the FBI found them here in an entirely apolitical and professional way. I couldn't be prouder to be part of this organization.
So the exact opposite is true. The man is lying through his teeth. Everything he said, the antithesis is the actual truth. It was purely political. It was one of the greatest cover-ups in political history. And it is what it is. You know, problems arise when you just can't wrap your head around the Clintons maneuvering or getting people like Comey to do their dirty work or saving them. The Clintons are political creatures that are extremely talented at bending the law and getting people to cover for them and getting media to protect them. And they're just, brilliant at evading the repercussions that anyone else would experience. And that comes from saving the Democratic Party after Jimmy Carter obliterated it in the late 70s. Okay? This is, when you look at US history, why do you think that Hillary and Bill get a free pass all the time? It's because Jimmy Carter ushered in 8 years of Reagan, 4 years of Herbert Walker, and without Clinton, it would have been 8 years of Herbert Walker, and who knows when the next Democrat would have. It would have been 16 years of Republicans. So media gives them a free pass. And now you have media as literally like an extension of the Democratic Party. And Comey writes memos that start the Mueller probe. So, ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe to this channel. If you gotta look. I mean, this is the Sussmann indictment. You cannot look at all of this, people, to my amazing subscribers. You can't look at all of this and say, well, J-Spot, J-Spot, you gotta look, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, Florida Man Bear, thank you. You gotta look at everything in aggregate. Look at everything in aggregate. Look at everything from the vantage point of recent history. Okay? If you look at things from the vantage point of recent history, you'll understand, how we got here. Democrats fabricated Trump Russia. They did so with confidence assessments, with fake and phony information given to media and to intelligence agents. And that was while Comey and others covered up all of their criminal acts or illegal activity or corruption. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be back in a couple of hours. CMW, Born to Raise Hogs, everyone here to my super chat. Thank you. Eric, Luke, thank you so very much. JG, everybody here. David, everybody here. Thank you so very Anthony, thank you so very much. Anthony, thank you. Everybody here, God bless. I'll be back in a couple